Everyone in Chicago knew Hwan Jae-Min was untouchable. Not because he was kind, not because he was fair, but because crossing him meant disappearing. His name didn't appear in headlines. It appeared in whispered warnings. Dock workers, politicians, bankers, criminals, they all answered to him in different ways. At 42, he had everything a man could buy and nothing he could feel. No family, no holidays, no one who called him just to hear his voice. That was the price of power. Then, on a bitter winter morning, two black twin boys stood outside his building and changed the equation. They didn't run when the guards stared them down, didn't cry when the guns shifted. They just held each other's hands and waited. When Jae-Min asked why they were there, the smaller one spoke first. "Our mum wants to see you." No threats, no demands. Just a sentence that landed harder than any bullet ever had. Because somewhere deep inside, Jae-Min already knew who their mother was. And he knew one terrifying truth. If these children belonged to her, then they were already his weakness. Hwan Jae-Min had survived 3 assassination attempts, 2 federal investigations, and 1 internal betrayal that ended with bodies in Lake Michigan. At 42, he was considered untouchable. A Korean-born billionaire whose Chicago empire spanned shipping, tech, luxury real estate, and businesses that never appeared on paper. Politicians shook his hand. Criminals lowered their eyes. But no one knocked on his door without fear, until 2 small boys did. They appeared outside his South Loop headquarters on a freezing Tuesday morning, identical braids, matching thrift store coats, hands clasped together like they were bracing for impact. The guards almost removed them. Almost. "I'm sorry," the taller twin said, voice shaking but steady. "Our mum said we should ask you ourselves." Jae-Min stepped out of the elevator just in time to hear that sentence. The lobby froze. His suit was charcoal gray, tailored to perfection. His expression revealed nothing. But inside his chest, something ancient cracked. "What does your mother want?" he asked calmly. The shorter twin swallowed hard. "She says you owe her the truth." That sentence landed like a grenade, because Jae-Min knew exactly one woman in this world who would be brave enough, or reckless enough, to send her children into a lion's den with nothing but courage and a message. Ava. He hadn't spoken her name aloud in 7 years, but he'd thought about her every single day since. Hwan Jae-Min didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in leverage, silence, and fear. 3 things that had kept him alive longer than most men in his profession. The penthouse office overlooked Lake Michigan, 50 floors above the city that bent to his will. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the skyline like a painting of conquest. Everything below belonged to him in one way or another. His assistant, Marcus, stood near the door with a tablet in hand. "The shipment from Busan cleared customs. Payment confirmed. The alderman wants a meeting Thursday." "Decline it," Jae-Min said, without looking up from his desk. "He'll agree to our terms by Friday." Marcus nodded and left. That was how Jae-Min's world worked. People came to him. People obeyed him. People feared him. And those who didn't disappeared. It wasn't cruelty. It was efficiency. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, Japanese, aged 20 years, and stared out at the frozen lake. Snow was falling in thick sheets, turning the city into a monochrome blur. Somewhere down there, people were celebrating the holidays, families gathering, children laughing. Jae-Min felt nothing. He'd learned long ago that attachment was a liability. Love was a weakness. Family was a target painted on your back. So he'd built an empire instead. Shipping routes that moved goods across 3 continents. Tech firms that laundered money through legitimate revenue streams. Real estate holdings that politicians couldn't touch because they were investors too. And beneath it all, the invisible network. The one that didn't exist on paper. The one that made people vanish when they asked too many questions. Jae-Min had spent 2 decades building this machine, and he'd sacrificed everything to protect it, including her. He drained the whiskey and turned away from the window. The intercom buzzed. "Sir," Marcus said, his voice tight, "there's a situation downstairs." Jae-Min's expression didn't change. Situations were common. Threats were routine. "Handle it." "Sir, it's 2 children. They're asking for you by name." That made him pause. Children didn't come here. Ever. "Send security." "They already tried, sir. The boys won't leave. They said their mother told them to wait until you came down." Jae-Min's jaw tightened. Only one woman in the world would be insane enough to send children into his world. He grabbed his coat and walked to the elevator. When the doors opened on the ground floor, the lobby was eerily quiet. His guards stood in a semicircle near the entrance, guns hidden but ready. And in the center of that circle, 2 small boys stood hand in hand. They couldn't have been older than 6. Identical braids, matching coats that were 2 sizes too big, wide brown eyes that didn't blink. Jae-Min's heart, a muscle he'd thought long dead, stuttered. He approached slowly. The taller boy stepped forward. His voice trembled, but he didn't look away. "I'm sorry to bother you, sir. Our mum said we should ask you ourselves." Jae-Min's throat tightened. "What does your mother want?" The shorter twin spoke next. "She says you owe her the truth." The lobby seemed to tilt. Jae-Min crouched down himself to their eye level. Up close he could see the faint resemblance, the shape of their eyes, the stubborn set of their jaws. His hands were shaking. "What's your mother's name?" he asked quietly. The boys exchanged a glance. "Ava," the taller one said. "Ava Munro." The name hit him like a punch to the chest. Jae-Min stood slowly, his mind racing. 7 years. 7 years since he'd walked away from the only woman who'd ever made him feel human. 7 years since he'd convinced himself it was for her own good. And now she'd sent these boys, these impossibly brave, impossibly small boys, straight into his empire. He looked down at them again, and he saw it. The way they held each other's hands, the way they stood their ground despite the guns and the danger and the fear. They had her courage, but they had his eyes. "Come with me," Jae-Min said quietly. The guard stiffened. "Sir!" "Now." He led the twins to a private conference room, away from prying eyes. The boys sat side by side on a leather couch that swallowed them whole. Jae-Min sat across from them, his mind a hurricane. "What are your names?" "I'm Isaiah," the taller one said. "I'm Micah," the shorter one added. Jae-Min nodded slowly. "And your mother? Where is she?" Isaiah's expression hardened. "She's sick. She won't go to the hospital because it costs too much. But she won't get better without help." Micah's voice was softer. "She told us not to come, but we did anyway." Jae-Min's chest tightened. "How did you find me?" "Mum has a picture," Isaiah said, "of you and her. She keeps it hidden, but we found it. It has your name on the back." Jae-Min closed his eyes.
Of course she kept it. Of course she never let go. He opened his eyes and looked at the boys again. Really looked at them. They were his. He didn't need a test, didn't need confirmation. He could see it in every line of their faces. These were his sons. And Ava, brave, reckless, beautiful Ava, had raised them alone for 7 years. Because of him. "Where do you live?" he asked quietly. Isaiah rattled off an address on the south side. Jae-Min's blood ran cold. That neighborhood was a war zone. "Go home," he said, standing. "Tell your mother I'm coming." The boys stood too, relief flooding their faces. "Thank you, sir," Micah whispered. Jae-Min watched them leave, escorted by Marcus. And then he stood alone in the conference room, staring at his reflection in the darkened window. For the first time in 7 years, Hwan Jae-Min felt something. Fear. Jae-Min didn't go to the south side that night. He sent Marcus instead, with a private doctor, a security detail, and instructions to make sure Ava had everything she needed. But he didn't go himself, because he
Was a coward. The realization settled over him like frost. He'd faced down cartel lieutenants and federal agents without flinching. He'd ordered executions with a single nod. He'd dismantled rival empires and rebuilt them under his control. But facing Ava, that terrified him. Because she was the only person in the world who'd ever seen him as something other than a monster. And he'd walked away from her anyway. Marcus returned at midnight. "She's stable," he reported. "Pneumonia. The doctor started antibiotics. She'll recover." Jae-Min nodded, staring into his whiskey. "And the boys? Protective? Brave? They wouldn't leave her side." Jae-Min's jaw tightened. "Did she say anything?" Marcus hesitated. "She asked if you were coming." Jae-Min looked up sharply. "What did you tell her?" "I said you were handling things. That you'd see her soon." Jae-Min drained his glass. Good. But it wasn't good. Nothing about this was good. Because Ava wasn't just a woman from his past. She was the woman he'd loved. The woman he'd left to keep safe. And now she had his children. Their children. And she was living in poverty while he sat in a penthouse made of blood money. The guilt was suffocating. Jae-Min stood and walked to the window. Chicago glittered below, indifferent and cold. Somewhere in that maze of lights, Ava was sleeping in a bed he'd paid for, but hadn't had the courage to deliver himself. Somewhere in that city, his sons were wondering if their father was a man worth knowing. Jae-Min pressed his forehead against the glass. He'd spent 7 years building walls around his heart. 2 small boys had torn them down in 5 minutes. The next morning, Jae-Min drove to the south side himself. No security, no entourage. Just him and the suffocating weight of his own choices. The neighborhood was worse than he'd imagined. Boarded-up windows, graffiti-tagged walls, groups of men on corners who watched his car with predatory interest. This was where his children lived. This was where Ava had been struggling alone. Rage burned through him, at himself, at the world, at the circumstances that had led here. He parked outside a sagging apartment building and climbed 3 flights of stairs that smelled like mildew and despair. When he knocked, Isaiah opened the door. The boy's eyes widened. "You came." "I said I would." Isaiah stepped aside and Jae-Min entered. The apartment was small but clean. Threadbare furniture. Walls painted a cheerful yellow that couldn't quite hide the cracks. A tiny kitchen where cereal boxes were stacked like a fortress. And in the corner, on a worn couch covered in blankets, Ava sat, with Micah curled against her side. She looked up, and Jae-Min's world stopped. 7 years. 7 years, and she was still the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Her hair was shorter now, pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her face was thinner, shadowed by exhaustion. But her eyes, those fierce, intelligent, unbreakable eyes, were exactly the same. Ava? Her name came out like a prayer. She didn't smile. Jae-Min. Her voice was steady, but he could hear the tremor underneath. Micah looked between them, confused. Isaiah stood near the door, watching. "I'll make tea," Ava said quietly, standing. Jae-Min wanted to tell her to sit, to rest, to let him do something. But he didn't have that right. So he waited. When she returned with 2 chipped mugs, she handed him one and sat across from him. The boys retreated to their shared bedroom, sensing the adults needed space. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ava broke the silence. "Why did you come?" "Because they're mine." It wasn't a question. Ava's jaw tightened. "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" Her laugh was bitter. "Tell you? Jae-Min, you disappeared. You cut me out of your life like I was a tumor. You changed your number, moved offices, erased me completely. To protect you. From what?" "From me." His voice cracked. "From the things I do. The people I know. The enemies I have. Ava being with me would have gotten you killed. So you decided for me?" "Yes." "And now?" Jae-Min set down his mug. "Now I want to be in their lives, if you'll let me." Ava studied him for a long moment. "They're good boys, Jae-Min. They're kind, they're smart, they have big hearts. They get that from you. They deserve better than what I can give them. Better schools, better opportunities, a safe place to live." Jae-Min leaned forward. "Then let me provide that." "I don't want your money." "It's not about what you want. It's about what they need." Ava's eyes glistened. "I won't let them become like you." The words cut deeper than any knife, but Jae-Min didn't flinch. "Good. They shouldn't." Ava blinked, surprised. "I don't want them in my world," Jae-Min continued. "I want them far from it. I want them to grow up normal, safe, happy." "Then what are you offering?" "Everything. A new apartment, private schools, security, medical care, whatever you need." "And what do you want in return?" Jae-Min's voice softened. "To know them, to be their father, even if I don't deserve it." Ava looked away, tears streaming down her face. "You broke my heart." "I know. You made me believe I was nothing. You were everything. That's why I left." She shook her head. "I don't know if I can forgive you." "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance." Ava wiped her eyes and stood. "The boys need stability, routine. If you're going to be in their lives, you have to be all in. No disappearing, no lies." I promise. And if you hurt them, I won't. Ava's gaze was steel. Then we'll try. But Jae-Min, yes? If you betray us again, I'll make sure you regret it. He believed her. Within a week. Jae-Min didn't ask permission. He simply made it happen. A 3-bedroom apartment in Lincoln Park. Hardwood floors. A real kitchen. Windows that overlooked a park where children actually played. Ava protested, but only once. Because the truth was, she was exhausted. 7 years of working 2 jobs. 7 years of stretching every dollar. 7 years of lying awake at night, wondering if she'd made the right choice by keeping the boys. Jae-Min had given her that choice. When she discovered she was pregnant, she'd searched for him desperately, but he'd vanished like smoke. No forwarding address, no mutual friends, nothing. So she'd made the only choice she could. She'd kept them, and she'd loved them with everything she had. But love didn't pay rent. Love didn't put food on the table. Love didn't fix the broken heating in winter or the leaking roof in summer. Ava had sacrificed everything for her boys. Now, standing in a bright, warm apartment that smelled like fresh paint and new beginnings, she finally let herself breathe. Isaiah and Micah ran through the rooms, laughing.
Mum, we have our own room! Mum, look at the bathtub!
Ava smiled, tears streaming down her face. Jae-Min stood in the doorway, watching. "Thank you," she said quietly. "It's the least I can do." She turned to face him. "Why did you really leave, Jae-Min?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because my world is violent, dangerous. People close to me don't live long. So you chose to be alone. I chose to keep you alive." Ava stepped closer. "That wasn't your choice to make." "I know that now." She searched his face. "Do you regret it?" "Every day." The air between them was electric. Ava wanted to hate him, wanted to scream, wanted to make him feel every ounce of pain he'd caused. But when she looked into his eyes, all she saw was regret. And something else. Love. It was still there, buried beneath 7 years of silence. "I need time," she said softly. "Take all the time you need. But the boys, I'll be here, as much as you'll allow." Ava nodded. That night after the boys were asleep, she sat alone in her new living room and cried. Not from sadness, from relief. Because for the first time in 7 years, she wasn't alone. Jae-Min's world noticed the change immediately. A man like him didn't suddenly acquire a family without drawing attention, especially from enemies. Dmitry Volkov had been circling Jae-Min's empire for 2 years, looking for weaknesses. The Russian operated out of Brighton Beach, but had ambitions in Chicago. He controlled the drug trade in 3 neighborhoods and wanted more. Jae-Min had blocked every move. Until now. "He's got a woman and kids," Dmitry's lieutenant reported. "Living in Lincoln
Park. Dmitry smiled. Finally, something soft. That night, Ava received her first threat. A black SUV parked outside her building for 6 hours. Men with cold eyes and expensive suits. Watching. She called Jae-Min immediately. He arrived with 10 armed men. The SUV was gone by the time he got there, but the message was clear. "You're coming to my building," Jae-Min said, his voice leaving no room for argument. "We just moved here." "And now you're moving again. Tonight." Ava wanted to fight him, wanted to insist on independence. But when she looked at Isaiah and Micah, still innocent, still safe, she knew she couldn't gamble with their lives. Fine. Jae-Min's penthouse had guest suites that were larger than Ava's entire apartment. The boys were thrilled. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of the entire city, a kitchen that looked like something from a magazine. But Ava felt trapped. "How long?" she asked. Jae-Min stood at the window, his jaw tight. "Until I handle it." "Handle it how?" He didn't answer, because they both knew what that meant. Jae-Min called a meeting with his inner circle. Marcus, his head of security, his lawyer, his fixer. "Volkov is making a move," Jae-Min said. "He thinks the boys are leverage." "Are they?" Marcus asked carefully. Jae-Min's eyes were cold. "They're my sons, which means touching them is a death sentence. Volkov won't back down just because you're angry. Then we make him disappear." The room was silent. "That'll start a war," the lawyer said. "Then we fight a war." Marcus leaned forward. "Jae-Min, if we escalate, the feds will notice. Your empire is built on staying invisible. This makes you visible." Jae-Min slammed his hand on the table. "I don't care. They threatened my family." The word hung in the air. Family. Jae-Min had never used it before. Marcus nodded slowly. "Then we do it quietly. No bodies, no trail." "I don't care about quiet. I care about permanent." But before Jae-Min could act, Volkov made his next move. He didn't target the boys. He targeted Ava. She was walking back from the building's gym when 3 men cornered her in the parking garage. "Mrs. Hwan," one of them said, smiling. "Dmitri would like a word." Ava's heart raced, but she kept her voice steady. "I don't know who that is." "Sure you don't." They moved closer. Ava calculated her options. Scream? Run? Fight? Then a voice cut through the garage. "Step away from her!" Jae-Min emerged from the shadows, flanked by armed men. The Russians froze. "This is a private conversation," one of them said. Jae-Min's smile was cold. "No, this is your last mistake." He shot the man in the knee. The sound echoed through the concrete. The other 2 Russians bolted. Jae-Min's men pursued. Ava stood frozen, staring at the man writhing on the ground. Jae-Min turned to her, his expression softening. "Are you hurt?" She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, because she'd just watched him shoot someone without hesitation. "Ava." She looked up at him, and for the first time she saw what he really was. Not a protector. A monster. "Get me out of here," she whispered. Jae-Min escorted her upstairs, leaving Marcus to handle the cleanup. Back in the penthouse, Ava locked herself in the bathroom and threw up. When she emerged, Jae-Min was waiting. "I'm sorry you had to see that." "Sorry I saw it." Her voice was shaking. "Jae-Min, you shot him." "He was going to hurt you." "So you hurt him first?" "Yes." "And you don't see the problem with that?" Jae-Min's expression hardened. "The problem is that Volkov thinks he can touch you. The problem is that showing mercy in my world gets people killed." "Then maybe you need a different world." "I can't change what I am." "Then what the hell are we doing here?" Ava shouted. "What am I teaching my boys by keeping them near you?" Jae-Min flinched. "Our boys." "No." Ava's voice broke. "They're mine. I raised them. I protected them. And I will not let them grow up thinking violence is the answer to everything." "I would never." You already are! The words hung between them. Jae-Min stepped back, his face unreadable. You're right, he said quietly. I'm not good for them. Ava's anger faltered. Jae-Min, I'll make sure Volkov is handled, and then I'll stay away. That's not what I... But he was already walking toward the door. Wait! He paused. I don't want you gone, Ava said, tears streaming down her face. I want you better. Jae-Min looked back at her. I don't know if I can be. Then learn. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he left. Jae-Min ended Dmitry Volkov's operation in 72 hours. No dramatics, no violence that would make headlines, just quiet, methodical destruction. Bank accounts frozen, shipments intercepted, allies bought off or intimidated, and Volkov himself deported back to Moscow on charges that materialized out of thin air. By the end of the week, the threat was gone. But Jae-Min didn't feel victorious. He felt hollow, because Ava's words haunted him. I will not let them grow up thinking violence is the answer to everything. She was right. Isaiah and Micah were bright, curious, kind. They asked questions about everything. They shared their toys. They hugged their mother without shame. They were nothing like him. And that was the point. Jae-Min returned to the penthouse late one night to find the boys still awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a puzzle. You're home, Micah said, grinning. Isaiah looked up more cautiously. Mom's asleep, he said. She had a headache. Jae-Min nodded. Do you want help? He asked, gesturing to the puzzle. The boys exchanged a glance. Sure, Isaiah said. Jae-Min sat down, feeling absurdly out of place. He'd negotiated billion-dollar deals
and stared down killers. But sitting with two 6-year-olds made him nervous. This piece goes here, Micah said helpfully, pointing. Jae-Min placed it. They worked in silence for a while. Then Isaiah spoke. Are you our dad? Jae-Min's hand froze over the puzzle. Yes. Why didn't you live with us before? The question was innocent, curious, but it cut like a blade. I made a mistake, Jae-Min said carefully. I thought staying away would keep you safe. From what? From bad people. Micah frowned. Are you a bad person? Jae-Min's throat tightened. How did he answer that? I've done bad things, he said finally, but I'm trying to do better. Isaiah studied him. Mom says people can change if they want to. Your mother is very wise. She also says you used to be nice. Before. Jae-Min's chest ached. I was different when I knew her. Can you be different again? Such a simple question. Such an impossible answer. I don't know, Jae-Min admitted. But I want to try. Micah smiled. That's good enough. Isaiah wasn't convinced, but he didn't argue. They finished the puzzle together, and when Jae-Min tucked them into bed, something he'd never imagined doing, Micah hugged him goodnight. Isaiah didn't, but he didn't pull away either. The next morning, Jae-Min found Ava in the kitchen. We need to talk, she said. He poured himself coffee and waited. I can't keep living in fear, Ava said. The boys can't grow up in a fortress. Volkov is gone. But there will be others. There's always another threat in your world. Jae-Min set down his cup. What do you want me to do? I want you to choose them or the Empire. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Jae-Min. You taught me that. He stood and walked to the window, staring out at the city he controlled. If I walk away, someone else will take over, and they won't be as careful. People will die. People are already dying. Not innocents. You sure about that? He wasn't. Ava stepped beside him. I'm not asking you to become someone you're not. I'm asking you to decide what matters more, power or family. I can protect you both. No, you can't. Because the Empire is what puts us in danger in the first place. Jae-Min's jaw clenched. You're asking me to give up everything I've built. I'm asking you to build something better. He looked at her, and he saw the woman he'd fallen in love with. Strong, uncompromising, fiercely protective. And he saw his sons, sleeping safely in the next room. I need time, he said. Then take it. But Jae-Min? Yes? Figure it out fast, because I won't wait forever. Jae-Min spent the next week in hell. Not the literal kind, the kind where every decision felt impossible. He sat in meetings with men who looked at him with fear and respect. Men who owed their livelihoods to his empire. Men who would be destroyed if he walked away. He reviewed financial reports showing billions in assets, supply chains spanning continents, investments that kept hundreds of people employed. But he also saw the blood underneath, the intimidation, the bribes, the violence that kept it all running. He'd convinced himself it was necessary. Now he wasn't sure. One night, Isaiah found him in his office. Can't sleep? Jae-Min asked. The boy shook his head. Bad dream. Want to talk about it? Isaiah climbed into the chair across from Jae-Min's desk. I dreamed about those men in the garage, the ones who scared Mum. Jae-Min's chest tightened. They're gone now. I know. Mum told us. Isaiah picked at a thread on his pajamas. Did you hurt them? Jae-Min considered lying, but Isaiah deserved the truth. Yes. Are you a bad man? There it was, the question that had been haunting him for weeks. Jae-Min leaned back in his chair. I don't know. Isaiah looked up, surprised. Mum says bad people don't wonder if they're bad. They just are. Then maybe I'm somewhere in between. Can you be good? I'm trying. Isaiah studied him for a long moment. I don't think you're bad. I think you're scared. The observation stunned Jae-Min. Scared of what? Of being happy. Mom gets scared sometimes too. When things are good, she worries something bad will happen. Jae-Min's throat tightened. Your mother is braver than I'll ever be. She says you're brave too. You just forgot. Jae-Min looked at this small boy, his son, and felt something break open inside him. Isaiah, I don't know how to be a good father. I don't know how to be part of a family. You just have to stay. That's what Mom always says. Just stay. Such simple wisdom, such impossible hope. I'll try, Jae-Min whispered. Isaiah slid off the chair and hugged him. And Jae-Min, who hadn't cried in 20 years, felt tears on his face. The next day, Jae-Min called a meeting with his inner circle. "I'm stepping back," he announced. The room erupted. "What? You can't. Jae-Min, this is suicide." He held up a hand. "I'm not disappearing. I'm restructuring. Marcus will take over operations. I'll remain a silent partner." Marcus looked stunned. "You're serious?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I have something more important to protect." His lawyer leaned forward. "The feds will circle like sharks if you show weakness." "Then we make sure there's nothing to find. Clean up the operations, go legitimate, phase out everything that can't withstand scrutiny." "That'll take years." "Then we start now." The room was silent. Finally, Marcus spoke. "You're doing this for them, the woman and the boys." "Yes." "And if it all falls apart?" Jae-Min's expression was steel. "Then I fall apart with it. But I won't sacrifice my family for this empire again." Ava found him that evening on the penthouse balcony. "I heard," she said. "News travels fast." She stood beside him, both of them staring out at the glittering city. "Are you sure?" she asked. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." Ava smiled. "That's growth." "Is it enough?" She took his hand. "It's a start." They stood together in comfortable silence. And for the first time in 7 years, Jae-Min felt something he'd forgotten existed. Peace. The transition wasn't clean. 3 of Jae-Min's top lieutenants quit immediately. They'd built their careers on his reputation for ruthlessness, and they didn't trust a man who suddenly developed a conscience. Others stayed, but watched him with suspicion. And a very few, respected the decision. Marcus was one of them. "You're going to lose money," he warned. "Lots of it." "I have enough money." "You're going to lose influence." "Good." Marcus studied him. "You've changed." "About time." But change came with consequences. Rivals who'd been held at bay by fear now saw opportunity. Shipments were hijacked, warehouses burned, employees were intimidated. Jae-Min had spent 20 years building an empire through fear. Now he was trying to dismantle it with integrity. And the empire was fighting back. One night, someone fired shots into the lobby of his building. No one was hurt, but the message was clear. You're vulnerable now. Ava wanted to leave Chicago entirely. "We could go somewhere quiet," she said. "Start over." But Jae-Min shook his head. "Running won't solve this. I have to finish what I started." "Even if it gets us killed?" "It won't." "You can't promise that." "Then I'll die trying." Ava grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. "Don't you dare. Those boys need their father. They need a father worth having. You already are." Jae-Min pulled her close, and in that moment he made a choice. He wouldn't just step back. He would burn it all down. Every dirty operation, every illegal deal, every connection that put his family at risk. He would destroy his own empire to build something clean, even if it destroyed him in the process. The next 6 months were brutal. Jae-Min liquidated assets, shut down operations, and cut ties with everyone who wouldn't go legitimate. He lost billions. He gained enemies. But he also gained something else. Time. Time to have breakfast with his sons. Time to help with homework. Time to take Ava to dinner without guards hovering. The boys started calling him Dad. Not all the time, not effortlessly, but enough that it mattered. One evening, Micah asked him to read a bedtime story. Jae-Min sat on the edge of the bed, book in hand, and realized this was the first time he'd read to anyone. "You're doing it wrong," Micah giggled. "You have to do the voices." "I don't know how." "Just try." So Jae-Min tried.
And Micah laughed so hard he got hiccups. Isaiah watched from his own bed, smiling despite himself. When Ava peeked in later, she found Jae-Min asleep in the chair between their beds, the book still open in his lap. She covered him with a blanket and left him there. But the Empire had one final move. His former business partner, a man named Victor who'd been with him from the beginning, called a meeting. "You've made us weak," Victor said coldly. "And weak men don't survive." Jae-Min met his gaze. "Then I'll die weak." "Not just you. Your woman. Your children." Jae-Min's expression didn't change, but his voice dropped to ice. "Touch them, and you'll beg for death before I'm done." Victor laughed. "You've gone soft." "No, I've finally figured out what's worth fighting for." He walked out of that meeting knowing Victor would make a move. He was right. 2 days later, Victor arranged for federal agents to raid Jae-Min's remaining properties. But Jae-Min had already cleaned house. The agents found nothing. Victor ended up in custody instead, implicated in crimes Jae-Min had carefully documented before walking away. It was poetic justice. And it was final. The apartment felt too small after everything that had happened. So Jae-Min bought a house. Not a mansion, not a fortress, just a house. 4 bedrooms in Evanston, near good schools and a park. A backyard where the boys could play. A kitchen with enough space for family dinners. Ava cried when she saw it. "It's too much." "It's exactly enough." They moved in on a Saturday, all 4 of them carrying boxes and laughing when Micah tripped over his own feet. Jae-Min hung pictures on the walls, photos Ava had taken over the years, the boys at various ages, birthdays and holidays, and everyday moments. He wasn't in any of them, but he would be now. That night, they had their first family dinner at the new dining table. Spaghetti, garlic bread, a salad that Isaiah insisted he didn't need to eat. It was chaotic and loud, and absolutely perfect. "Dad," Micah said suddenly, "can we get a dog?" Jae-Min looked at Ava. She shrugged, smiling. "Why not?" Isaiah's eyes went wide. "Really?" "Really," Jae-Min said. The boys erupted in cheers, and Jae-Min realized something profound. This noise, this mess, this love, was more valuable than anything he'd ever built. The boys started school the following week. Jae-Min drove them on their first day. He walked them to their classroom, made sure they knew where everything was, and promised to pick them up. "You're not going to disappear?" Isaiah asked quietly. The question broke Jae-Min's heart. "Never again." Isaiah nodded. And when school ended, Jae-Min was the first parent waiting outside. Ava found steady work as a teacher. She didn't need to. Jae-Min's legitimate businesses still generated significant income, but she wanted to. "I need to be my own person," she explained. Jae-Min understood. They built a life together, slowly, carefully. Some days were easy, others were hard, when old habits surfaced or when trauma made itself known. But they kept showing up, and gradually, the wounds healed. One evening, after the boys were asleep, Ava found Jae-Min on the porch. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "How lucky I am." She sat beside him. "You earned this. You changed. Because of you. Because of them." Jae-Min smiled. "All of you." Ava rested her head on his shoulder. "I'm proud of you." Those 4 words meant more than any deal he'd ever closed. 3 years later, the house in Evanston had become a home. Isaiah and Micah were 9 now, full of energy and opinions. They played soccer, argued about video games, and still held hands when they thought no one was looking. Jae-Min coached their soccer team. Ava taught 2nd grade at their school, and the dog, a golden retriever named Biscuit, ruled the household with gentle chaos. It was ordinary. It was beautiful. One Saturday morning, Jae-Min woke to find both boys jumping on his bed.
Dad, wake up! Mom made pancakes!
He groaned theatrically. 5 more minutes.
No way!
Micah grabbed his arm.
They're chocolate chip!
Jae-Min let them drag him downstairs. The kitchen smelled like butter and warmth. Ava stood at the stove, spatula in hand, looking more beautiful than any memory. "Good morning, sleepyheads." "Morning," Jae-Min said, kissing her cheek. They ate together, syrup everywhere, laughter filling the spaces. Afterward, Isaiah looked at him seriously.
Dad, can we talk?
Of course. They went to the backyard. Isaiah sat on the swing, suddenly shy.
I told my friend about you, about what you used to do.
Jae-Min's heart sank. And?
He asked if you were Guy.
What'd they tell him? Isaiah looked up, eyes clear and certain.
I told him you used to make what choices, but you changed, and now you're a good dad.
Jae-Min's throat tightened. That's very generous.
It's true.
I'm still learning.
What all are.
Such wisdom from someone so young. Jae-Min pulled his sons into a hug. I love you, Isaiah.
Love you too, Dad.
That evening, Jae-Min found Ava accepting a bag. Going somewhere? She smiled mysteriously.
We are. I books a weekend getaway. Just us.
What about the boys?
Marcus offered to babysit.
Jae-Min laughed. Marcus? With children? He's surprisingly good with them. I'm terrified.
Good. You need to learn to let go.
She was right. Jae-Min had spent years controlling everything. Now he was learning to trust. They spent the weekend at a cabin in Wisconsin. No phones, no work. Just them. They hiked, cooked together, talked for hours, and on the last night, sitting by the fireplace, Jae-Min asked the question he'd been holding for months. Will you marry me? Ava looked up, surprised.
Seriously?
Completely. You don't have a ring. I wanted to ask first. Make sure you'd say yes before I bought one. She laughed. That's very practical. Is that a yes? Ava's expression softened. We've been through hell together. We've built a life. We're raising incredible children. So? So yes. Of course, yes. Jae-Min kissed her. And for the first time in his entire life, he felt whole. They married 6 months later. Small ceremony. Close friends only.
The boys were ring bearers, looking adorable in tiny suits. Marcus officiated, surprisingly emotional. And when Jae-Min said his vows, he meant every word. I was lost for most of my life. I thought power was the answer. I thought control kept me safe. But all it did was make me alone. You saved me. You and our boys. You gave me a reason to be better. And I will spend every day for the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of this gift. I love you, Ava. Completely. Forever. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Ava's vows were simpler. You've shown me that people can change, that love is stronger than fear, that family is built through choice, not just blood. I choose you, every day, for the rest of our lives. They kissed. The boys cheered, and Biscuit barked, tail wagging wildly. That night, after the reception, Jae-Min stood in their backyard with Isaiah and Micah. The stars were out, brilliant and endless. Dad? Micah asked. Are you happy? Jae-Min looked at his sons, these brave, beautiful boys who'd walked into his empire and demanded he become someone better. Yes, he said. I really am. Isaiah smiled. Good, because we are too. Micah grabbed both their hands. Family hug! They stood together under the stars, 3 pieces of a whole that had once seemed impossible. And Jae-Min realized something profound. He'd spent 20 years building an empire of fear. But this love, this family, this ordinary, beautiful life was the greatest power he'd ever known. Not the power to destroy, the power to create, the power to heal, the power to choose a different path. Inside the house, Ava watched through the window, heart full. Her boys, her husband, her family. It hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Every struggle, every fear, every moment of doubt, worth it. Because love, real, messy, complicated, transformative love, was always worth fighting for. And as the stars shone above and laughter echoed through the yard, one truth remained. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do isn't building an empire. It's walking away from one and building something better in its place. The end.